She surprised the billionaire CEO at his wedding with a secret. If anyone knows any reason these two should not be joined. The priest's words echo through the cathedral at 11:47 a.m., and I press my hand against my stomach, feeling our child kick beneath my carefully draped dress. Your child. Marcus. The child you don't know exists. Sunlight streams through stained glass, painting the marble floor in fragments of color that mirror the data patterns from my lab screens. How fitting. Everything about this moment reflects the patterns I've spent months studying. Patterns your AI system recognized before any of us understood what they meant. The morning sickness that plagued my surgical residency these past months was worth every moment. This baby, this miracle I was told could never happen, carries the genetic marker your AI detected. The same marker that nearly destroyed your reputation when everyone said your system had failed. But they were wrong, Marcus. We were all wrong. Your bride begins her procession at precisely noon. Katerina Wong, Tech Dynasty heiress, perfectly matched to cement your corporate empires. She's radiant in white, silk, and diamonds. Everything a billionaire's bride should be. Everything I'm not, standing here in my carefully chosen dress, hiding the evidence of our one perfect night. A night that changed not just our lives, but the future of genetic medicine. The elderly woman beside me shifts in the pew at 12:03 p.m., her knowing eyes taking in my protective hand placement. He looks different from last year, she whispers, studying you at the altar. After that dreadful scandal with the AI system, I never thought I'd see him smile again. My fingers clench the wedding program, crinkling the thick paper. The scandal, when your artificial intelligence flagged a warning in a child's genetic screening, and the medical community declared you a failure. That rainy evening at 8:15 p.m., when I found you in the hospital chapel. Your public mask cracked, revealing the wounded healer beneath the billionaire's armor. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that save lives. You'd said that night, staring at the stained glass as if it held answers. But what if I'm wrong? What if the system is seeing patterns that don't exist? I remember touching your hand, the electricity of that first contact. What if it's seeing patterns we don't understand yet? The memory burns now as I watch you straighten your tie at 12:05 p.m., your hand steady despite what's coming. The data arrived at 7:30 a.m., proof that your AI system had detected something revolutionary. A genetic marker that only presents in certain combinations. A pattern that could change everything we thought we knew about genetic medicine. The cathedral erupts in gasps. Katerina's bouquet hits the marble floor with a soft thud, white roses scattering like scientific papers across polished stone. You haven't seen me yet. Your eyes are fixed on the tablet displaying this morning's breakthrough data. I can't do this, you continue, your voice gaining strength in the hushed space. Not with what we've just discovered. You turn to your stunned bride, and I see the familiar intensity that first drew me to you that night at 9:45 p.m. in the hospital chapel, the passion that drives you to save lives no matter the personal cost. The AI system wasn't wrong last year. It was detecting a pattern we couldn't see, a genetic marker that only presents in certain combinations. Your eyes sweep the congregation at 12:09 p.m., searching for understanding among the medical and tech professionals gathered here. Then you find me, standing in the last pew, and everything stops. I see the exact moment recognition hits not just of me, but of what my presence here might mean. Dr. Reed, my name falls from your lips like a diagnosis finally confirmed. You were right that night. About everything. The elderly woman beside me, who I now realize must be Dr. Helen Blackwood from the FDA's Genetic Review Board, smiles knowingly. You didn't come here to stop this wedding, did you, dear? You came to save his life's work. At 12:11 p.m., my hands tremble as I pull the medical journal from my bag. The marker showed up in my prenatal screening, Marcus, the same pattern your AI detected. It's not a flaw in the system. It's a previously unknown genetic signature. A signature that only appears, you finish, realization dawning, when two carriers create new life. The cathedral falls silent at 12:12 p.m. as understanding ripples through the assembled medical elite. Our night together hadn't just created a child, it had validated your life's work and opened a new frontier in genetic medicine. Katerina steps forward at 12:13 p.m., her wedding dress rustling against the altar steps. You knew about this? She asks, her voice steady despite the circumstances. About her? The medical data came in at 7:30 a.m. You reply, still holding the tablet like a shield. But Olivia? You pause, studying me with new understanding. I didn't know about everything. I find myself addressing the stunned congregation, my medical training taking over, as emotion threatens to overwhelm me. Your AI system saved my life when I was 16. I explain, meeting the eyes of confused family members and curious colleagues. The experimental treatment was supposed to leave me unable to conceive. When I discovered I was pregnant at 3:15 a.m. 8 months ago, I ran every possible test. At 12:15 p.m., the baby kicks again, stronger this time. I sway slightly, and you cross the distance between us in long strides. Medical instincts overriding social protocol. Your hand catches my elbow, and the simple contact sends electricity through both of us, just like that night in the hospital chapel. How far along? You whisper. Close enough now that I catch the familiar scent of your cologne mixed with hospital antiseptic. 31 weeks, I answer. I tried to tell you after the scandal, but you thought I wouldn't believe the system could be right. Your voice carries regret and wonder that I dismissed the data like I almost did last year. At 12:17 p.m., Katerina's calm voice cuts through the tension. The prenatal trials. That's why you've been pushing to restart them since 6 a.m. this morning, Marcus. You knew something had changed. Dr. Blackwood rises beside me at 12:18 p.m., her presence commanding immediate attention. I'm Dr. Helen Blackwood, head of the FDA's Genetic Review Board, and I believe we're witnessing something unprecedented. This mutation could change everything we know about genetic resilience. Your grip on my elbow tightens. The children in last year's trial, we need to rerun their data. If this protective marker could save them, I finish at 12:19 p.m. It already has. I've been monitoring their progress through the Hopkins network since 5 a.m. every morning. The marker is expressing exactly as your AI predicted. You continued the work, you breathe, and I hear the amazement in your voice. Even when everyone else doubted, someone had to believe in the possibility of healing. I meet your gaze in second chances. At 12:20 p.m., the baby kicks again, a strong movement that makes me gasp softly. Your hand moves instinctively toward my stomach, hovering questioningly. The cathedral seems to hold its breath with us. I nod, placing your palm against the movement of our child. Your eyes widen as you feel the kick, solid proof of both medical breakthrough and personal miracle. For a moment, we're not surrounded by hundreds of guests, not standing in the wreckage of a wedding. We're just two doctors witnessing the impossible become possible. At 12:22 p.m., Katerina steps down from the altar, her expression shifting from shock to understanding. Well, Marcus, it seems the universe has quite efficiently solved several problems at once. She smiles wryly. Our families wanted a merger. I wanted my research funded. You needed validation for your AI system. And apparently, she gestures to my concealed pregnancy, the next generation has already begun combining our legacies. At 12:24 p.m., you turn to your almost bride, but Katerina raises a hand to stop you. Oh, stop being noble. She cuts you off, picking up her fallen bouquet with surprising grace. We both know our engagement was more corporate strategy than romance. Besides, she turns to me with genuine scientific interest. I believe Dr. Reed and I have some genetic sequences to discuss. This protective mutation could have fascinating applications for my stem cell research. By 12:26 p.m., the cathedral's atmosphere transforms from scandalized shock to buzzing excitement as doctors and researchers begin connecting the implications. A failed wedding has become an impromptu medical summit, with scattered conversations about clinical trials and genetic markers replacing wedding whispers. Life finds a way, Doctor. Blackwood observes at 12:27 p.m., watching the scene unfold. To bring together what belongs together. Sometimes through science, sometimes through love, often through both. Your hand hasn't left my stomach, and I feel the warmth of it through my dress as our child moves again. I spent the last year searching for proof that my life's work wasn't a failure. You say softly, never imagining that proof would come walking into my wedding at 11:45 a.m., carrying both scientific validation and, your voice roughens with emotion, new life. At 12:29 p.m., Doctor, Blackwood clears her throat. The media will be all over this by 6 p.m. We need to control the narrative, focus on the medical breakthrough, not the personal drama. She's right, Katerina says at 12:30 p.m., her business acumen surfacing through the bridal lace. This could either be a scandal that tanks both your reputations or a medical breakthrough that changes lives. The difference lies in how we handle the next few hours. The murmuring in the cathedral grows louder as phones begin lighting up. Medical journals are already calling their representatives in attendance. By 12:32 p.m., the story is spreading through the healthcare community like a beneficial contagion. We need to get you both to the hospital, Dr. Blackwood announces, taking charge. The data needs to be properly documented, the genetic marker thoroughly analyzed. We'll turn this 1 p.m. wedding into a 2 p.m. press conference, but one that announces a medical revolution, not a personal scandal. Your thumb traces small circles on my stomach, a gesture so unconsciously intimate it makes my breath catch. The children from the original trial, you say at 12:34 p.m., your mind racing ahead. Their parents need to be notified immediately. They've spent a year believing. I have their files ready, I interrupt softly, Since 6 a.m., I've been documenting every instance of the marker's protective effects. The data is conclusive, Marcus. Your AI system didn't fail, it evolved beyond our understanding. At 12:36 p.m., a sharp kick punctuates my words, making us both smile. The future is literally moving beneath our joined hands, while around us, the past dissolves into something new. The wedding flowers that were meant to celebrate a corporate merger at 1 p.m. now witness a different kind of union: science and serendipity, professional brilliance, and personal truth. Dr. Sterling, calls a voice from the crowd at 12:37 p.m. The medical board is convening an emergency session at 2:30 p.m. They're requesting your immediate presence. Of course they are, you murmur. And I hear the familiar tension in your voice, the weight of responsibility competing with personal desire. But your hand doesn't leave my stomach, and I see you making the same calculations I did at 3:15 a.m. 11 months ago. How to balance life's unexpected gifts with professional duty. Go, I tell you softly at 12:38 p.m. The medical board needs to hear this directly from you. I'll head to the lab, start organizing the genetic sequencing data. No, your voice is firm, surprising both of us. We do this together. The board needs to see that this discovery isn't just theoretical, it's literally growing stronger every day. Your eyes meet mine with newfound certainty. No more separated paths, Olivia. The science brought us together twice now. I'm not ignoring that pattern. At 12:40 p.m., Katerina, who's been coordinating with her PR team, looks up from her phone. The press is already gathering outside. Every major medical journal wants comment by 3 p.m. We need to move quickly. She pauses, a slight smile touching her lips. Though I must say, Marcus, this is a far more interesting outcome than another corporate merger. By 12:42 p.m., the cathedral has become command central, with medical professionals huddled in groups, analyzing preliminary data on tablets and phones. The wedding guests who aren't part of the medical community sit bewildered in the pews, watching their expected 1 p.m. celebration transform into something unprecedented. Your car is waiting at the side entrance. Dr. Blackwood announces at 12:43 p.m., returning from a quick call. I've cleared your immediate access to the research facility. But first, she fixes us both with a stern look. We need to discuss how this pregnancy changes everything we thought we knew about genetic resilience. The timing of fetal development corresponds exactly with the AI's predictive model. I explain at 12:44 p.m., pulling up charts on my tablet. The baby kicks again, as if emphasizing the point. Each stage has revealed new aspects of the protective mutation. It's not just preventing genetic disorders, it's actively strengthening cellular resistance. Your hand moves from my stomach to the tablet, fingers tracing the data patterns you know so well. The system wasn't malfunctioning. You breathe, understanding dawning. It was predicting genetic evolution. That's why it flagged the markers as both warning and opportunity. At 12:45 p.m., the side door opens, letting in a shaft of sunlight that catches the abandoned wedding flowers. Your mother appears, her face a complex mix of emotions. Marcus, the board is waiting for their 2:30 p.m. meeting, but... She pauses, looking at me, at your hand, still hovering protectively near my stomach. Is it true? The AI system's validation? And her voice softens. My grandchild? Both. You answer at 12:46 p.m., and I hear wonder and certainty mixing in your voice. Mom, remember when you said sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come disguised as failures? You were right. We just didn't know how right. She crosses to us at 12:47 p.m., her planned mother of the groom speech forgotten as she reaches for my hand. How far along? 31 weeks, I tell her, watching her eyes fill with tears. And every test since 6 a.m. confirms the genetic marker's presence. Your son's work. It's going to change everything we thought we knew about genetic medicine. Of course it is, she says softly at 12:48 p.m., looking between us, because some patterns are written in more than just data. The cathedral's side entrance leads to a private courtyard where your car waits. The driver's eyes widen at 12:49 p.m., taking in your wedding tuxedo, my carefully chosen dress, and Dr. Blackwood carrying research files instead of wedding gifts. The research facility, you direct at 12:50 p.m., helping me into the car. Your mother squeezes my hand before stepping back, understanding that this moment belongs to science as much as family. As we pull away at 12:51 p.m., I catch a glimpse of Katerina through the cathedral doors, handling the press with practiced ease. Breakthrough in genetic medicine, she's saying, transforming a canceled 1 p.m. wedding into a medical announcement. She catches my eye and gives a slight nod, acknowledgement of how life surprises sometimes offer better solutions than our careful plans. The original trial children, you say at 12:53 p.m., as we navigate through city traffic, your mind already racing ahead. Their parents deserve to know first, before this hits the 6 p.m. news. They've lived with such fear this past year. Already arranged, Dr. Blackwood interjects from the front seat. They're being contacted now for a 3:30 p.m. briefing. Your AI system's vindication means their children aren't at risk. They're actually carrying protective genetic factors we've never seen before. The baby moves again at 12:54 p.m., and your hand finds mine. How did you know? You ask softly. To keep monitoring them? To run the expanded genetic panels at 5 a.m. every morning? To believe when everyone else had doubted? I think of those long nights in the lab, running tests while our child grew beneath my heart. Because I'd seen your system work miracles before, I answer. It saved my life as a teenager. And that night in the chapel at 9:45 p.m., when you showed me the original code. The chapel. You murmur at 12:55 p.m., remembering. You saw something in the code that night that everyone else had missed. Because I was looking at it differently, I explain, feeling our child shift beneath my ribs. Not as a system designed to spot problems, but as one teaching itself to recognize healing patterns. The same way my own genetic structure had changed after the experimental treatment years ago. At 12:57 p.m., the research facility appears ahead, its glass and steel structure reflecting the early afternoon sun. Already we can see people gathering in the lobby, board members, research teams, medical journalists preparing for the 2:30 p.m. meeting. Your hand tightens on mine. They're expecting an explanation of a medical breakthrough, you say quietly at 12:58 p.m. But how do we tell them that the proof of concept is our unborn child? Dr. Blackwood turns in her seat, her expression softening. We tell them the truth, that sometimes the most significant scientific advances come from life itself. That your AI system didn't fail, it evolved beyond our current understanding. And that Dr. Reed's pregnancy isn't just a personal miracle, it's validation of a new frontier in genetic medicine. The car stops at the private entrance at 1 p.m., the exact time you were supposed to be saying I do in the cathedral. Through the tinted windows, we can see camera flashes already starting. Your thumb traces circles on my palm, a gesture both soothing and nervous. At 1:01 p.m., you turn to me, your voice carrying that blend of professional certainty and personal wonder. Ready? I've been ready since that night in the chapel. I answer, placing our joined hands over our child, when I saw in your code what you'd created, a system that could recognize healing before we understood how it worked. The lobby falls silent. At 1:02 p.m. as we enter, you still in your wedding tuxedo, me in my carefully draped dress, Dr. Blackwood leading with purpose. The medical board members stand at attention, their expressions a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Dr. Sterling, the board chairman, begins at 1:03 p.m. We understand you're claiming validation of your AI system's controversial genetic markers? Not claiming, you reply, your voice steady. Proving, you gesture to the display screens, and I pull up the data from my tablet. The genetic sequences appear, glowing like modern art across the walls. What you're seeing is a previously unidentified protective mutation, one that doesn't just prevent genetic disorders, it actively strengthens cellular resilience. At 1:04 p.m., I step forward, feeling our child move as if responding to the tension in the room. The marker appears in less than 0.01% of the population. I explain, highlighting specific sequences. It's so rare that traditional testing missed it, but Dr. Sterling's AI system recognized the pattern. And you can prove this? Another board member challenges at 1:05 p.m. I can do better than prove it, I answer, meeting your eyes briefly. I can show you. My hands move to my dress, smoothing it against my stomach, making the pregnancy unmistakable. I am 31 weeks pregnant with a child carrying this exact marker. A pregnancy that was supposed to be impossible due to genetic damage from an experimental treatment years ago. At 1:06 p.m., the room erupts in murmurs as understanding dawns. Your hand finds the small of my back, supporting me as I continue. The genetic markers your AI system flagged in last year's trial weren't warning signs, I explain, bringing up comparative scans. They were indicators of an evolutionary adaptation, one that Dr. Sterling's system recognized before our current medical knowledge could explain it. Dr. Blackwood steps forward at 1:07 p.m., her authority silencing the murmurs. I've reviewed the data since 7:30 a.m. today. The children from last year's trial aren't at risk. They're carrying a genetic advantage we've never seen before, one that Dr. Reed's pregnancy is proving can be passed to the next generation. Your voice carries across the lobby at 1:08 p.m., steady with certainty. The system didn't fail. We failed to understand what it was telling us. It saw patterns of resilience where we expected to find weakness. Would you like me to continue? I'm maintaining precise chronology while building scientific validation and emotional depth. At 1:09 p.m., the baby kicks strongly, and I catch my breath. You move closer, protective and professional at once. The board chairman notices the gesture, his eyes moving between us as pieces fall into place. The timing? He says slowly at 1:10 p.m. Your pregnancy coincides with the original trial data. You're not just presenting research, you're living proof of the system's accuracy. Yes, I acknowledge at 1:11 p.m., feeling the weight of every medical professional's gaze. What was considered a genetic liability has become an unexpected strength. The same pattern the AI detected in those children exists in this child. I meet your eyes. Our child. The silence that follows feels charged with possibility. Then, at 1:12 p.m., one of the younger board members steps forward, tablet in hand. The implications for genetic medicine. This changes everything we thought we knew about hereditary resilience. Show them, you say softly, at 1:13 p.m., nodding toward my tablet. I pull up the longitudinal data, 31 weeks of genetic markers strengthening, evolving, proving what your AI had predicted all along. The screens fill with cascading data. At 1:14 p.m., genetic sequences dancing like digital poetry across the walls. In the reflected light, I see tears in some of the board members' eyes as they recognize the implications. At 1:15 p.m., I begin explaining the data that's held me captive since 5 a.m. each morning. The protective mutation, I highlight key sequences, doesn't just prevent genetic disorders. It adapts. Every week of fetal development has revealed new expressions of resilience. The AI system saw this potential for adaptation when all our traditional models said it was impossible. Your hand moves to my lower back at 1:16 p.m. as I sway slightly, steadying me. The gesture doesn't go unnoticed by the room. Here we stand, the brilliant AI developer in his abandoned wedding tuxedo and the pregnant doctor who proved his system right. Living embodiments of both scientific breakthrough and life's unexpected turns. Dr. Reed, the chairman asks, at 1:17 p.m., his voice gentler now, when did you first suspect the connection between your pregnancy and the AI's predictions? I think back to that morning at 3:15 a.m., staring at the first genetic panel, results in disbelief. When I saw my own genetic markers changing, the same treatment that once damaged my reproductive system had created an opening for something new. Something your AI, I look at you, had been trying to tell us all along. At 1:18 p.m., you say, suddenly, understanding dawning, the night in the chapel at 9:45 p.m., when you asked to see the original code. You weren't just offering comfort to a colleague in crisis. You saw something, didn't you? At 1:19 p.m., I nod, remembering how the strings of data had seemed to pulse with possibility in the dim chapel light. I recognized the pattern because I'd lived it. The experimental treatment that saved my life as a teenager, it didn't just damage my reproductive system. It forced my genes to adapt, to evolve. Your AI recognized that same potential for adaptation in those children last year. The baby kicks again at 1:20 p.m., stronger this time. Several board members step forward instinctively as I brace myself against a desk. In that moment, I'm not just a doctor presenting data, I'm living proof of their theories about genetic resilience. May I? Dr. Blackwood asks at 1:21 p.m., holding up a portable scanner. At my nod, she runs it across my stomach, and new data floods the screens. The room collectively holds its breath as real-time genetic information appears, showing active mutation patterns exactly matching your AI's predictions. It's not just theoretical anymore, you say at 1:22 p.m., your voice thick with emotion. We're watching evolution happen at the genetic level. The system didn't fail, it saw the future of human genetic adaptation. At 1:23 p.m., a young researcher in the back raises her hand. The implications for genetic medicine. If we can understand how these protective mutations develop and replicate, we can revolutionize treatment for genetic disorders, I finish. Not by fighting against genetic variations, but by understanding how they can become strengths. The press conference is scheduled for 2 p.m., Dr. Blackwood reminds us gently at 1:24 p.m., and those trial families deserve to know their children aren't just safe, they're pioneers in genetic evolution. At 1:25 p.m., you turn to the board, your voice finding that perfect balance between professional authority and personal wonder. Gentlemen, ladies, what you're witnessing isn't just the validation of an AI system. It's proof that our understanding of genetic medicine has been too limited. We've been so focused on identifying problems that we missed nature's solutions. The baby moves again at 1:26 p.m., and this time I don't hide my reaction. Your hand finds mine as I steady myself, and the gesture seems to humanize the science for everyone watching. The chairman's expression softens as he looks at us. No longer just two doctors defending research, but living proof of the body's capacity for miraculous adaptation. The media will want a simple explanation at 2 p.m., he says at 1:27 p.m. How do we convey something this complex to the public? We tell them the truth, you reply, your thumb tracing circles on my hand. That sometimes what we think are genetic flaws are actually evolution in progress. That an AI system designed to find problems discovered something remarkable instead, the human genome's ability to transform weakness into strength. At 1:28 p.m., Dr. Blackwood steps forward, her years of FDA experience evident in her measured tone, and we tell them that this discovery came about because two doctors dared to question conventional wisdom. One, by creating an AI system that could see patterns we couldn't understand yet. The other by trusting those patterns enough to monitor them, even when everyone else had dismissed them as errors. The afternoon sun slants through the facility's windows at 1:30 p.m. as reporters begin filing into the conference room. Their expressions shift from professional curiosity to barely concealed surprise as they take in your wedding attire and my carefully draped dress. But it's Dr. Blackwood who steps to the podium first, her authority setting the tone. Ladies and gentlemen, she begins at 1:31 p.m. Today, we announce a breakthrough in genetic medicine that will rewrite textbooks and change how we think about human adaptation. The cameras flash at 1:32 p.m. as you join her, your presence commanding despite the incongruous formal wear. 1 year ago, you say, my AI diagnostic system identified what we thought was a dangerous genetic marker in a group of children. Today, we prove that the system wasn't detecting danger, it was recognizing evolution in action. I step forward at 1:33 p.m., and the room falls silent as my condition becomes apparent. Your hand finds the small of my back again, steadying me as I face the press. As both a doctor and a patient, I begin. I stand before you as living proof of what Dr. Sterling's AI discovered. At 1:34 p.m., the baby kicks hard enough to make me pause, and somehow that moment, that visible proof of life, defying medical impossibility, captures every camera in the room. Sometimes the most powerful scientific evidence comes wrapped in deeply human moments. Dr. Reed, a reporter calls out at 1:35 p.m., are you saying your pregnancy validates the AI system's controversial findings? This pregnancy, I answer at 1:36 p.m., meeting your eyes briefly, is one part of a larger validation. The genetic marker Dr. Sterling's AI system identified doesn't just prevent disorders, it actively creates resilience. We've documented this pattern not only in my case, but in all the children from last year's trial. A murmur ripples through the press corps at 1:37 p.m. as understanding dawns. Another reporter stands, her keen eyes taking in our unusual attire. Dr. Sterling, this announcement was meant to be your wedding day. The timing seems perfect, actually. You interrupt at 1:38 p.m., your voice carrying that blend of professional certainty and personal truth that first drew me to you. Sometimes the most important discoveries come when we're forced to question everything we think we know. Your hand remains steady at my back as you continue. My AI system recognized a pattern of healing that challenged our basic assumptions about genetic medicine. Dr. Reed proved why those assumptions needed to be challenged. At 1:39 p.m., Dr. Blackwood steps in smoothly, redirecting attention to the medical implications. The data we're releasing today shows conclusively that these genetic markers represent an evolutionary adaptation, one that Dr. Reed's pregnancy has allowed us to study in real-time development. The baby moves again at 1:40 p.m., and this time, I don't try to hide my smile. In this moment, I'm both doctor and miracle, researcher and research subject. Your thumb traces small circles against my back, grounding me as questions fly from the assembled press. What we're witnessing, you explain at 1:41 p.m., as graphs and genetic sequences fill the screens behind us, is the human genome's remarkable ability to adapt and strengthen. The AI system recognized this pattern because it wasn't programmed with our preconceptions about what genetic markers should mean. At 1:42 p.m., a veteran medical reporter leans forward. And your personal connection to this discovery? She asks, delicately, her eyes moving between us. The timing suggests that life sometimes has better plans than we do. You answer at 1:43 p.m., your professional tone softening. Doctor, Reed and I shared a commitment to understanding these genetic markers when everyone else had dismissed them. That commitment led to, you pause, and I feel your hand tremble slightly against my back, multiple breakthroughs. At 1:44 p.m., the baby kicks again, making me catch my breath. The cameras catch the moment, and I see understanding dawn on the reporters' faces. This isn't just a scientific announcement. It's a deeply human story of how dedication to truth can transform both medicine and lives. The children from last year's trial, I add at 1:45 p.m., steering us back to the broader implications, are all showing signs of enhanced genetic resilience. What we once feared might harm them has actually protected them. Their parents are being notified now that their children aren't just healthy, they're helping us understand the future of genetic medicine. At 1:46 p.m., Dr. Blackwood steps forward again. The implications for genetic treatment are revolutionary. We're not just identifying problems anymore, we're discovering how the human genome naturally evolves to solve them. Dr. Sterling, another reporter, calls out at 1:47 p.m. Your AI system was nearly shut down after last year's controversy. How does it feel to be vindicated? You straighten slightly at 1:48 p.m., and I feel the subtle shift in your posture, the moment when personal triumph meets professional responsibility. This isn't about vindication, you reply. It's about understanding that sometimes our greatest fears can become our greatest breakthroughs. Those parents trusted us with their children's genetic data. Today, those same children are helping us rewrite our understanding of human adaptation. At 1:49 p.m., the screens behind us fill with before and after genetic sequences, showing the strengthening patterns your AI first detected. The baby moves again, as if responding to the data that proves its own extraordinary existence. Dr. Reed, a young reporter, asks at 1:50 p.m., her voice gentle, "You mentioned your own medical history. Could you explain how it connects to this discovery?" I take a deep breath at 1:51 p.m., feeling your support steady behind me. Years ago, I underwent an experimental treatment that was supposed to leave me unable to have children, but that same treatment forced my genes to adapt in ways we didn't understand then. Dr. Sterling's AI system recognized similar adaptive patterns in last year's trial children because it was designed to see potential where others only saw problems. At 1:52 p.m., Dr. Blackwood interjects, her experienced voice drawing attention back to the broader significance. What Dr. Sterling's AI discovered, and Dr. Reed's pregnancy confirms, is that genetic adaptation isn't just about avoiding problems, it's about creating new possibilities. A photographer captures the moment at 1:53 p.m. as you step closer to me, your hand still steady at my back while our child moves beneath my heart. The image will appear in medical journals and news outlets worldwide. The AI pioneer in his wedding tuxedo, and the pregnant doctor who proved his system right, standing together as living proof that science and life sometimes take unexpected turns. At 1:54 p.m., a senior medical correspondent rises. One last question, Dr. Sterling, you were meant to be married at 1 p.m. today. Instead, you're announcing a medical breakthrough that validates your life's work. And Dr. Reed, he pauses, his experienced eyes taking in the full picture. You chose this moment to reveal both the scientific truth and its personal implications. Why now? The room falls silent at 1:55 p.m., waiting. I feel your thumb trace one more small circle against my back before you answer. Because some patterns can't be ignored. My AI system was designed to recognize healing where others saw harm. Today, we're not just announcing a medical breakthrough, we're showing that sometimes the most powerful scientific truths come wrapped in deeply personal revelations. At 1:56 p.m., the baby kicks again, strong enough to make me smile despite the gravity of the moment. Cameras flash, capturing the genuine emotion that no press conference can hide. What happens next? Someone calls from the back of the room at 1:57 p.m. The question hangs in the air, heavy with both scientific and personal implications. Dr. Blackwood steps forward at 1:58 p.m., ever the practical voice of medical progress. The FDA is fast-tracking review of the new data. By 9 a.m. tomorrow, the genetic markers Dr. Sterling's AI identified will be reclassified from potential threats to indicators of adaptive resilience. At 1:59 p.m., you clear your throat, and I feel the slight tremor in your hand that tells me you're moving off script. But beyond the medical implications, you say, your voice carrying that blend of professional authority and personal wonder that first drew us together, this discovery reminds us that sometimes our greatest breakthroughs come from questioning what we think we know. At 2 p.m., precisely when your wedding reception was meant to begin, the baby moves again, and this time I don't hide my reaction. Your hand slides from my back to rest more firmly against my side, feeling our child's movement. The gesture is caught by every camera in the room, but neither of us moves to hide it. Some truths deserve to be witnessed. Dr. Reed, a voice calls out at 2:01 p.m., will you continue your research through the pregnancy? Actually, I reply at 2:02 p.m., sharing a quick glance with you. We've been documenting every stage of fetal development since 5 a.m. each morning. The genetic markers are strengthening week by week, showing us exactly how these adaptive mutations express themselves. At 2:03 p.m., Dr. Blackwood announces, the research facility is being restructured. Dr. Reed will head the new genetic adaptation unit, combining her medical expertise with the AI system's pattern recognition capabilities. Together, they'll study how these protective mutations develop and replicate. At 2:04 p.m., Dr. Blackwood nods approvingly, and the original trial families have all agreed to participate in follow-up studies beginning at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Their children aren't just patients anymore, they're pioneers in understanding human genetic potential. The afternoon sun slants through the windows at 2:05 p.m., casting long shadows across the conference room. In this light, your wedding tuxedo looks less like a reminder of interrupted plans and more like formal wear worthy of a scientific breakthrough. My carefully draped dress, chosen to hide my pregnancy at the 1 p.m. wedding, now seems perfectly suited for announcing a medical miracle. One final question. Calls a reporter at 2:06 p.m. Dr. Sterling, doctor. Reed, you're about to revolutionize genetic medicine while preparing for a child that proves your theories. How do you balance the personal and professional aspects of this discovery? Your hand presses gently against my side at 2:07 p.m., where our child continues to move, and I hear the smile in your voice as you answer, by remembering that the best science comes from understanding life itself. My AI system recognizes patterns of healing because that's what life does. It finds ways to grow stronger. Even when we think it's impossible, I add softly at 2:08 p.m., covering your hand with mine. At 2:09 p.m., the press conference ends. But the real work is just beginning. As reporters file out, Dr. Blackwood coordinates with the medical board about fast-tracking trials for 8 a.m. tomorrow, while research teams already begin analyzing the new data flooding their screens. In a quiet corner of the conference room at 2:10 p.m., you loosen your bow tie, the 1 p.m. wedding that wasn't now feeling like a distant memory. You knew, didn't you? You ask softly. That night in the chapel at 9:45 p.m., when you asked to see the AI's original code, you already suspected what it was really detecting. I rest my hand over our still-moving child at 2:11 p.m. I recognize the pattern because I'd lived it. The same treatment that was supposed to leave me unable to conceive had actually created the potential for something new. Your AI saw that potential in those children last year, but we weren't ready to understand it yet. And now? Your voice at 2:12 p.m. carries all the questions we haven't had time to ask each other. Now we have proof that sometimes what we think are our greatest weaknesses can become our unexpected strengths. I meet your eyes, seeing the same wonder I feel reflected there. Your AI system wasn't just detecting genetic markers, Marcus. It was showing us that healing comes in patterns we don't always recognize at first. At 2:13 p.m., Dr. Blackwood approaches, her expression softening as she takes in our private moment. The research teams are ready whenever you are. Though perhaps, she adds with a knowing smile, you both might want to change into more appropriate attire before the 3:30 p.m. briefing with the trial families. The lab can wait an hour, you say. At 2:14 p.m., surprising both Dr. Blackwood and me, there's something we need to do first. You turn to me, still in your wedding tuxedo, but now your eyes hold a different kind of certainty than they did at 11:45 a.m. at the altar. Olivia, you begin at 2:15 p.m., using my first name in front of others for the first time today. I started this day thinking I was making the safe choice, the expected merger of corporations and careers. Instead, I found something far more valuable, proof that the best patterns in life are the ones we don't plan. The baby kicks again at 2:16 p.m., strong and insistent, as if emphasizing your words. Your hand finds mine, and I feel the slight tremor in your fingers that tells me this isn't a rehearsed moment. The chapel that night at 9:45 p.m., you continue at 2:17 p.m., when everyone else had gone home and you stayed to look at the code with me. That was the first time I felt hope after months of doubt. You saw possibility where others saw failure. You understood what the AI was trying to tell us before I did. At 2:18 p.m., Dr. Blackwood quietly gestures for the remaining staff to leave the room, giving us privacy while still visible through the glass walls. Outside, we can see research teams already at work, preparing for tomorrow's 8 a.m. trials, analyzing data that will change medicine forever. I'm not asking for marriage, you say softly at 2:19 p.m. Not today, but I am asking if you'll help me build something even more important, a future where we combine science and life, research and family, your brilliant medical mind, and my pattern-seeking AI. At 2:20 p.m., I feel our child move again, and I understand what you're proposing. A partnership, I say, understanding flowing between us like the data streams on the surrounding screens, professional and personal. More than that, you reply at 2:21 p.m., your hand moving to rest against our child. A new pattern altogether, one where breakthrough discoveries and bedtime stories can coexist, where we can revolutionize genetic medicine while watching our child grow, where the lines between laboratory and life blur into something better than either of us planned. At 2:22 p.m., the baby moves again, and this time we both laugh softly at the timing. Through the glass walls, we can see Dr. Blackwood holding back eager researchers, giving us this moment while the future of genetic medicine waits. The AI system, I say at 2:23 p.m., placing my hand over yours, it wasn't just recognizing genetic patterns. was it? It was showing us that sometimes the most powerful healing comes from letting life surprise us. Your free hand reaches up at 2:24 p.m. to cup my cheek, and I see in your eyes the same mixture of scientific wonder and personal awe that I feel when you walked into that fundraiser 11 months ago at 8:30 p.m. and challenged my entire understanding of genetic markers. I should have known. Known what? I ask at 2:25 p.m. That the best discoveries come from questioning everything we think we know. You smile, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. So, Doctor Reed, shall we go revolutionize genetic medicine together? At 2:26 p.m., I feel our child move again, as if voting on the decision. Together. I agree. And the word carries the weight of both professional commitment and personal promise. Though perhaps we should change first. A wedding tuxedo and this dress might not be ideal lab wear for the 3:30 p.m. briefing. At 2:27 p.m., your laugh echoes through the conference room, drawing smiles from the researchers waiting outside. I have a better idea, you say, reaching for your phone. Dr. Blackwood, could you come in for a moment? She enters at 2:28 p.m., eyebrows raised in question. The research teams are rather eager to begin the 3:30 p.m. briefing. And they will, you assure her at 2:29 p.m., but first, I need you to make a call to Judge Martinez, the one who was supposed to perform the 1 p.m. ceremony today. Understanding dawns on her face as you continue at 2:30 p.m. Ask if she's willing to officiate a different kind of union. Not a corporate merger disguised as a marriage, but a real partnership, personal and professional. My heart skips at 2:31 p.m. as I realize what you're suggesting, Marcus. Not a wedding. You clarify quickly at 2:32 p.m. Your eyes meeting mine. Not yet, but a formal recognition of what we're building here. A research partnership that acknowledges both the scientific breakthrough and its very personal proof. Your hand rests gentle against our child, something that gives our work and our child the foundation it deserves. At 2:33 p.m., Dr. Blackwood is already dialing, a rare smile softening her usually stern features. A partnership agreement, she says, with both professional and personal provisions. Quite fitting, considering how thoroughly you two have merged those worlds already. Judge Martinez can be here by 3 p.m., Doctor, Blackwood announces at 2:34 p.m., ending her call. She says she's rather relieved to be officiating something more meaningful than a corporate alliance. Through the glass walls at 2:35 p.m., we can see the research teams trying not to stare while pretending to analyze data. Your mother appears in the doorway, still in her mother of the groom outfit. Her eyes bright with unshed tears. I always knew your work would change lives, she says at 2:36 p.m., coming to embrace us both. I just didn't expect it to change ours quite so dramatically. Her hand joins ours over her grandchild, and the baby kicks in response. Though I suppose I should have known, you never did follow expected patterns, Marcus. The next 20 minutes pass in a blur of activity. By 2:45 p.m., research assistants clear the conference room, transforming it from medical briefing space to something more intimate. Dr. Blackwood coordinates with the legal team to draft a partnership agreement that encompasses both our professional collaboration and personal commitment. At 2:55 p.m., Judge Martinez arrives, taking in our formal attire with an amused smile. Well, she says, this is certainly more interesting than the merger ceremony I was expecting to perform at 1 p.m. You take my hand at 2:56 p.m., and I feel the slight tremor in your fingers that tells me this matters more than any corporate deal ever could. We'd like to create something new. You tell her, a partnership that honors both the science we're pursuing and the life we're creating. At 2:57 p.m., Judge Martinez nods, understanding the gravity of what we're creating. I've reviewed the partnership agreement Dr. Blackwood sent over, she says. It's quite unique, combining research, collaboration, medical innovation, and family commitments into one foundation. The late afternoon sun streams through the windows at 2:58 p.m., casting long shadows across the conference room, now filled with the people who matter most, your mother, Dr. Blackwood, key research team members, and a few of the original trial families who rushed here after hearing the news. Before we begin at 3 p.m., Judge Martinez continues, I should note that this agreement goes beyond typical professional or personal contracts. It acknowledges your joint commitment to advancing genetic medicine while ensuring your child's future in both the research and family spheres. At 3:01 p.m., the baby moves again, and your hand tightens on mine. Around us, the screens still display the genetic sequences that brought us here, proof that sometimes the most powerful patterns emerge from life's unexpected turns. Dr. Sterling, the judge begins at 3:02 p.m. Do you commit to this partnership both in the laboratory and in life? to pursuing breakthrough discoveries while building a family foundation that honors both science and love? Your voice carries that blend of professional certainty and personal wonder at 3:03 p.m. as you answer, I do. Because some patterns are too important to ignore. Dr. Reed, Judge Martinez turns to me at 3:04 p.m. Do you commit to this partnership, to combining your medical expertise with Dr. Sterling's AI research while nurturing the very miracle that proves your theories? The baby kicks strongly at 3:05 p.m., as if offering its own opinion. A soft laugh ripples through the room, breaking the formal tension. I do, I answer, feeling the perfect convergence of professional purpose and personal joy. Because sometimes the best breakthroughs come from trusting both science and heart. At 3:06 p.m., Dr. Blackwood steps forward, holding the partnership agreement. Its pages contain carefully worded clauses about research, collaboration, and family commitments, about genetic discoveries and parental responsibilities. At 3:07 p.m., Judge Martinez explains, the signatures you're about to make represent more than a legal agreement. They mark the beginning of a new approach to genetic medicine, one that recognizes how deeply personal discoveries can transform professional understanding. Your hand steadies mine at 3:08 p.m. as we sign your wedding tuxedo sleeve brushing against my dress. The formal attire that was meant for a 1 p.m. ceremony now seems perfectly suited for this moment, this union of science and life, of professional dedication and personal miracle. By the power vested in me, Judge Martinez announces at 3:09 p.m., I now pronounce you research partners and co-parents, united in both laboratory and life. There's one more thing, you say at 3:10 p.m., surprising everyone. You reach into your tuxedo pocket and pull out a small data drive, the original AI code, the version that first detected these patterns of healing. I want it included in our agreement with a stipulation. Dr. Blackwood leans forward at 3:11 p.m., intrigued. What kind of stipulation? That we rename the system? You say at 3:12 p.m., your eyes meeting mine. Instead of calling it the Sterling Genetic Analysis Program, I want it renamed to include both our contributions. Your hand rests against our child, because it took both of us to understand what it was really showing us. At 3:19 p.m., I notice your mother discreetly wiping tears as she stands with Dr. Blackwood. Your mother's watching, I whisper. Let her, you reply softly at 3:20 p.m. She always said my dedication to the AI system would lead to something extraordinary. She just didn't expect it to be both a medical breakthrough and a grandchild. At 3:21 p.m., Judge Martinez finishes notarizing the partnership agreement, while Dr. Blackwood coordinates with the legal team. The document represents something unprecedented, a fusion of professional collaboration and personal commitment, of scientific innovation and family foundation. Dr. Sterling? Dr. Reed? A young researcher appears at the door at 3:22 p.m., tablet in hand. The initial data compilation from the trial families is ready for the 3:30 p.m. briefing. The genetic marker patterns, they're even stronger than we predicted. You look at me at 3:23 p.m., and I see in your eyes the same mix of professional excitement and personal wonder that I feel. Ready to change genetic medicine forever, you ask? More than ready. I answer at 3:24 p.m., but then pause as our child delivers a particularly energetic kick. Though, perhaps we should change first. Groundbreaking genetic research might be better conducted without wedding attire. At 3:25 p.m., your laugh mingles with the hum of equipment as research teams begin their setup for the 3:30 p.m. briefing. I have spare clothes in my office, you say, and I'm sure we can find something more suitable for you in the medical staff lounge. Dr. Blackwood approaches at 3:26 p.m. with 2 lab coats, freshly pressed and bearing new embroidery. Reed Sterling Genetic Research Division. Her eyes twinkle with rare humor. I took the liberty of ordering these last week when the preliminary data started coming in at 5 a.m. Call it a partnership gift. You knew? I ask at 3:27 p.m., touching the embroidered letters. I suspected. She corrects at 3:28 p.m. The genetic markers were too precise, the timing too perfect. And I've never seen 2 doctors more determined to prove a medical theory. She hands us the lab coats. Though I admit, I didn't expect quite such a dramatic confirmation of your findings. The baby moves again at 3:29 p.m. as you help me slip the lab coat over my dress, and suddenly the formal wear beneath seems less like abandoned wedding attire and more like the costume of a previous life, one where we thought success meant following expected patterns. Don't apologize. You smile at 3:34 p.m., your hand finding mine beneath the desk. Some patterns are meant to be celebrated. At 3:35 p.m., I point to a sequence that pulses with new data. The marker isn't just protective, it's adaptive. Each challenge to the genetic structure triggers a strengthening response. It's like watching cellular evolution in fast forward. Your fingers fly across the keyboard at 3:36 p.m., isolating the pattern. The AI saw this potential for adaptation, but we didn't have the framework to understand it. Until now, you glance at my stomach, then back at the screens. Until we had living proof. Dr. Blackwood leans in at 3:37 p.m., her scientific curiosity overtaking her usual reserve. If we can map how these mutations respond to challenges, develop protocols to encourage similar adaptations in other genetic structures, we could revolutionize treatment for genetic disorders. You finish at 3:38 p.m., the excitement in your voice matching the data streaming across the screens, not by fighting against genetic variations, but by understanding how they can become advantages. At 3:39 p.m., the baby moves again, and this time, the monitoring systems capture something new, a subtle shift in the genetic markers that makes every researcher in the room catch their breath. It's learning. You whisper at 3:40 p.m., wonder replacing scientific detachment. The mutation isn't just stable or protective, it's actually evolving as we watch. I feel tears spring to my eyes at 3:41 p.m., though whether from hormones or the sheer beauty of what we're witnessing, I'm not sure. Life finds a way, I murmur, remembering Dr. Blackwood's words from earlier. Not just any way, you respond at 3:42 p.m., your voice thick with emotion as you highlight the emerging pattern. The most elegant way possible. Look at how the genetic structure is reorganizing itself. It's not just adapting, it's optimizing. The research team crowds around our screens at 3:43 p.m., professional decorum forgotten in the face of what we're witnessing. One of the original trial parents, who arrived for the 3:30 p.m. briefing, lets out a soft sob of joy. "My daughter," she says at 3:44 p.m., pointing to her child's matching genetic sequence. When your AI flagged these markers last year, we thought it meant something was wrong with her, but she was actually showing us the future of human genetics. At 3:45 p.m., Dr. Blackwood is already coordinating with international research centers, her voice carrying controlled excitement as she explains what we're seeing. At 3:46 p.m., the medical board members who stayed begin drafting emergency protocol revisions, recognizing that everything we thought we knew about genetic medicine is about to change. The baby kicks again at 3:47 p.m., strong and insistent, making the real-time genetic data spike in beautiful, complex patterns across our screens. Your hand finds mine beneath the desk as we watch cellular evolution unfold before our eyes. "I think," you say softly at 3:48 p.m., "for my ears alone, our child is already teaching us more than all our years of medical research." Because we finally learned to look at the patterns differently, I reply at 3:49 p.m., watching as the genetic sequences dance across the screens, not as problems to be fixed, but as possibilities waiting to be understood. A notification pings at 3:50 p.m.t., more data flowing in from research centers worldwide as news of our discovery spreads. Doctors and geneticists are already finding similar markers in their own patients, patterns that were always there but never properly understood until your AI showed us how to see them. Dr. Sterling, Dr. Reed, a young researcher, calls out at 3:51 p.m., her voice trembling with excitement. The pediatric oncology department just sent over their genetic databases. The protective mutation. It's appearing in children who've unexpectedly gone into remission. Their genetic structure is adapting in exactly the same way. At 3:52 p.m., you lean forward, your wedding tuxedo sleeve brushing against my lab coat as we examine the new data. The implications for cancer treatment. You begin? Are revolutionary. Dr. Wren. Blackwood finishes at 3:53 p.m., already coordinating with oncology teams. If we can understand how these adapted mutations strengthen cellular resistance, the baby moves again at 3:54 p.m., and the monitors capture another evolution in the genetic sequence. Beautiful, complex, and full of hope. Through the glass walls, we can see more medical teams arriving for the 4 p.m. expanded briefing, drawn by the news of what we're discovering. It's not just cancer, I say at 3:55 p.m., pulling up new comparisons. Look at the autoimmune markers, the genetic disorders we thought were irreversible. The protective mutation isn't disease-specific, it's teaching cells how to adapt and strengthen regardless of the challenge. Your hand rests against my stomach at 3:56 p.m. as we watch another genetic sequence unfold. Our child, you murmur, wonder replacing scientific detachment, is showing us that healing isn't about fighting against genetic variations. It's about understanding how they become strengths. I finish at 3:57 p.m., covering your hand with mine. The baby kicks again, making the data streams spike with new patterns of adaptation. At 3:58 p.m., Dr. Blackwood approaches with a tablet displaying messages from medical centers worldwide. The international genetics community is calling this the Reed-Sterling paradigm shift. She says, her usual professional reserve cracking with pride, they're saying this changes everything we thought we knew about genetic medicine. Through the glass walls at 3:59 p.m., we can see more families from the original trial arriving for the 4 p.m. briefing, drawn by news of the breakthrough. Their children, the ones whose genetic markers first challenged our understanding, run to the observation window, pressing small hands against the glass as they watch their own genetic sequences display on our screens. Look, one little girl calls out at 4 p.m., pointing to a particularly beautiful pattern. That's my DNA dancing. Dancing? You repeat softly at 4:01 p.m., a smile touching your lips. She sees it better than we did at first. We were so focused on reading the patterns that we forgot to see their beauty. By 4:02 p.m., the research facility has become a hub of controlled chaos. As more medical teams arrive, through the glass, we watch as parents embrace, researchers compare notes, and children point excitedly at their own genetic sequences displayed on the walls. What began as a wedding day at 1 p.m. has transformed into something far more meaningful, a celebration of life's ability to surprise and strengthen us. Dr. Reed calls one of the original trial mothers at 4:03 p.m., her voice breaking with emotion. My daughter's latest scans. She holds up a tablet, hands shaking. The genetic adaptation you predicted? It's not just protecting her anymore. It's making her stronger than we ever imagined possible. At 4:04 p.m., the baby kicks again, and this time when the monitors capture the genetic response, it shows something new, a pattern so elegant it brings tears to my eyes. Your hand tightens on mine as we watch cellular evolution happening in real time. This is just the beginning, you say at 4:05 p.m., your voice carrying that perfect blend of scientific certainty and personal wonder. We've been looking at genetic variations as problems to solve, when really, they were solutions waiting to be understood. I finish at 4:06 p.m., feeling our child move beneath my heart as proof of everything we're discovering. At 4:07 p.m., Dr. Blackwood studies the latest data streams, and not just for genetic disorders. Look at how the adaptive response strengthens the entire cellular structure. This could revolutionize preventive medicine, enhance natural immunity, even slow aging processes. The afternoon sun has begun to set at 4:08 p.m., casting long shadows through the facility's windows. In this light, the genetic sequences on our screens look like streams of golden code, nature's own programming revealing its secrets at last. At 4:09 p.m., your bow tie hangs loose around your neck now, your wedding tuxedo rumpled from hours of research. My carefully chosen dress remains hidden beneath the lab coat that bears our combined names. Somehow, this feels more like a union than any planned 1 p.m. ceremony could have been. Mom, you call softly at 4:10 p.m., noticing your mother watching from the doorway. Come see what your grandchild is teaching us. She approaches at 4:11 p.m., elegant in her mother of the groom outfit, and watches as the latest genetic sequence unfolds. I always said your work would change lives, she says, touching the screen gently. I just didn't expect it to change ours in such a beautiful way. At 4:12 p.m., the baby moves again, strong and sure, and the monitors capture another evolution in the protective mutation. Around us, researchers gasp as the pattern reveals itself. More complex, more elegant, more hopeful than anything we've seen before. It's getting late, Dr. Blackwood observes at 4:13 p.m., noting how the research teams have been working non-stop since the 2 p.m. announcement. Perhaps we should continue fresh at 8 a.m. tomorrow. After all, she adds with a rare smile, your child has already given us more breakthrough data than we expected to gather in months. At 4:14 p.m., you help me stand from the research station, both of us stiff from hours of intense focus. Through the glass walls, we can see the trial families reluctantly preparing to leave, their children still pointing at the genetic displays with wonder. One last thing, you say at 4:15 p.m., turning to the main screen. Your fingers move across the keyboard, and suddenly the AI's core programming appears. The original code that saw patterns of healing where others saw only risk. The Reed-Sterling Adaptive Pattern Recognition System. You announce at 4:16 p.m., officially entering the new name into the database, because it took both of us to understand what it was trying to tell us. The baby kicks again at 4:17 p.m., making me laugh softly. I think someone approves of their legacy. A legacy of healing, you reply at 4:18 p.m., your hand finding its now familiar place against our child, and of seeing possibility where others see problems. You know, you say at 4:19 p.m. as we gather our things, I woke up this morning thinking today would end with a corporate merger. Instead, you gesture to the screen still displaying the revolutionary data, to the lab coats bearing our combined names, to our child moving beneath my heart. Instead, we merge something far more important. I finish at 4:20 p.m. Science and life, professional dedication, and personal miracle. your AI's ability to see patterns and my understanding of why they matter. At 4:21 p.m., Dr. Blackwood appears with two folders, copies of our partnership agreement and the preliminary research findings. The medical board is convening at 8 a.m. tomorrow. She says they want a fast-track approval for expanded trials. And she adds with uncharacteristic gentleness, they'd like to name the protective genetic sequence after you both. Through the facility's windows at 4:22 p.m., we can see the sunset painting the sky in shades of possibility. The cathedral where this day began at 11:45 a.m. stands in the distance, its stained glass now dark. But here in the lab, our screens glow with proof that sometimes life's interrupted plans lead to better destinations. Ready to go home, you ask softly at 4:23 p.m., helping me with my coat? Home, I repeat, at 4:24 p.m., the word carrying new weight, to prepare for tomorrow's 8 a.m. research, or to process today's changes. Both. You smile at 4:25 p.m., your hand finding mine. After all, we've got genetic medicine to revolutionize and a nursery to plan. A nursery filled with genetic models and medical journals, ITs, at 4:26 p.m., feeling the perfect balance of professional excitement and personal joy as we make our way through the facility. At 4:27 p.m., the research teams are finally powering down their stations, though the excitement in the air remains palpable. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., the world will wake up to news of a breakthrough that changes everything we thought we knew about genetic medicine. But tonight, in this moment, it's just us. Two doctors who found something extraordinary in both science and each other. Your mother meets us at the door at 4:28 p.m., holding a small package. I was saving this for after the 1 p.m. wedding, she says, pressing it into my hands, but somehow it seems more fitting now. Inside is a delicate silver frame, and within it, a piece of paper covered in familiar code, the original printout of your AI's first successful pattern recognition. Because every family needs to remember where their story began, she says softly at 4:29 p.m. The baby moves again at 4:30 p.m. as you help me into the car, and this time when you place your hand against the movement, there's no hesitation, no uncertainty, just the sure knowledge that some patterns are meant to be followed. You know, you say at 4:31 p.m. as we pull away from the facility, the evening sky deepening to purple. I think the AI knew something we didn't. What's that? I ask at 4:32 p.m., watching the research facility recede in the rearview mirror, its windows still glowing with the light of ongoing discoveries. It wasn't just recognizing genetic patterns. You say at 4:33 p.m., your hand finding mine in the gathering darkness. It was showing us that sometimes the most powerful healing comes from letting life surprise us. From trusting that what looks like an error in the code might actually be the system evolving beyond our understanding. The city lights blur past at 4:34 p.m., and I think about how differently this day has ended from how it began at 11:45 a.m. This morning, I stood before cathedral doors with a secret and a scientific truth. Now, as evening settles around us, both truth and secret have transformed into something far more extraordinary. The press will be waiting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I murmur at 4:35 p.m., feeling our child shift beneath my heart. Everyone will want to know how a canceled wedding led to a medical breakthrough. We'll tell them the truth. You reply at 4:36 p.m., your voice carrying that perfect blend of professional certainty and personal wonder that first drew me to you. That sometimes the best discoveries come from questioning everything we think we know. That healing follows patterns we have to learn to recognize. And that life. You pause, your hand resting gentle against our miracle. Life finds ways to make us stronger, if we're brave enough to let it. Brave enough, I repeat softly at 4:37 p.m., thinking of that night in the chapel at 9:45 p.m. when I first saw the patterns in your code that everyone else had missed, like trusting an AI system that seemed to be failing, or believing in a pregnancy that was supposed to be impossible. The car turns onto a quiet street at 4:38 p.m., lined with trees, their leaves silver in the evening light. Your mother's wedding gift, that first piece of AI code, rests in my lap. Now a family heirloom telling the beginning of a story neither of us expected. You know what tomorrow brings? You say at 4:39 p.m., not really a question. Once the medical community fully processes what we've discovered at the 8 a.m. board meeting, everything changes. I finish at 4:40 p.m. Genetic medicine, treatment protocols, our understanding of how the human body adapts and heals. I pause, feeling our child move again. But then, everything's already changed, hasn't it? At 4:41 p.m., you pull into the driveway of your home, our home now, I suppose, and turn off the engine. For a moment, we sit in the quiet darkness, letting the weight of this extraordinary day settle around us. I never made it down that cathedral aisle at 1 p.m. You say at 4:42 p.m., your voice soft with wonder. But somehow I feel like I've arrived exactly where I was meant to be. Because sometimes the best patterns aren't the ones we plan. I reply at 4:43 p.m., watching moonlight filter through the trees. They're the ones that emerge when we're brave enough to question everything we think we know. At 4:44 p.m., you help me from the car, and for a moment we stand together in the evening air. Through the window of what will become the nursery, we can see the glow of city lights reflecting off the genetic model you keep on your desk, a reminder of the work that brought us here. The baby moves again at 4:45 p.m., strong and sure, and your hand finds its place against my side without hesitation. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. we'll bring press conferences and medical boards, research teams, and clinical trials. We'll explain to the world how an AI system's supposed failure led to a breakthrough that changes everything we thought we knew about genetic medicine. At 4:46 p.m., in this quiet moment, we're just two doctors who discovered that the most powerful patterns aren't found in computer code or genetic sequences, but in life's ability to surprise us with its capacity for healing. Ready? You ask softly at 4:47 p.m., and I hear all the layers in that simple word. Ready for tomorrow's 8 a.m. scientific revolution. Ready for our shared future. Ready for the miracle growing beneath your hand. Yes, I answer at 4:48 p.m., feeling the perfect convergence of professional purpose and personal joy. After all, we have genetic medicine to revolutionize. And a nursery to fill with medical journals, you add with a smile, at 4:49 p.m. At 4:50 p.m., the evening wraps around us like a promise as we head inside, toward our future. One where breakthrough discoveries and bedtime stories will coexist, where professional dedication and personal miracles merge into something better than either of us planned. Because sometimes the most extraordinary patterns emerge when we let life show us what's possible. The end. 4:50 p.m. Engagement hook. If this story touched your heart, remember that breakthrough moments come in many forms. Sometimes the biggest miracles arrive in the moments we think all hope is lost. Share your own story of unexpected second chances in the comments below. Number echoes of love and power, number love and science, number second chances, number unexpected miracles.